The whisper of laughter. Once upon a time, in a vibrant kingdom cradled by verdant hills and glistening streams, lived a young prince named Elias. His days were often shrouded in a melancholic haze, a byproduct of tragedy that had marred his youth. Once bold and spirited, an unfortunate accident during a hunting escapade left him with a limp, a physical mark of his misfortune that often attracted disdain rather than compassion. On a particular sunlit day, the air was filled with the laughter of children running through the village square, their voices mingling harmoniously with the calls of merchants selling their wares. These sounds, once joyful to Elias, now echoed hollowly in his ears. He sat at the edge of the enchanted forest, a place he often retreated to, wishing for the solace of its towering trees and whispering winds. As he gazed into the depth of the forest, Elias couldn't help but feel the loneliness that came from isolation. Suddenly, a familiar voice tore him from his reverie. It was Gideon, the town's self-proclaimed leader of the bullies, surrounded by his group of ruffians. Eager laughter resonated through the space, and Elias's heart sank as he recognized their familiar mockery. "Look at that poor wretch," Gideon bellowed, pointing at a weary traveler passing by. The man was hunched over, with tattered clothes and tired eyes, symbolizing the struggles of those whom life had not been kind to. "I wonder what he did to deserve such a pathetic existence." Elias's blood ran cold as the laughter echoed in the air, each cruel chuckle a dagger to his spirit. He witnessed the traveler's face flush in embarrassment as he quickly diverted his gaze, wishing for a world where compassion triumphed over contempt. Despite his own trials, Elias felt a surge of indignation. The torment he faced had never truly hardened his heart against others. "They shouldn't laugh," he murmured to himself, clenching his fists in frustration. In that moment, something inside him shifted, a resolve sparked to challenge the laughter, the ignorance. Drawing deep from his memories of stronger days, Elias made a decision. He would confront these champions of cruelty, not as a prince, but as a simple traveler. If they could not see past appearances, he would reveal another layer of truth, the one that lay beneath the surface of every human heart, no matter how callous. He descended from the forest's edge and began to craft his plan. During the following weeks, he took to the village in disguise, with worn clothing that reflected the plight of the poorest. Every evening, he listened and observed, absorbing the intricacies of village life while dodging the smirks and raised brows from those who recognized him as the limping prince. Elias learned how the villagers gossiped about him, their whispered words like freezing shards of ice. Yet, gazing into their eyes, he noticed faint glimpses of kindness hidden beneath the laughter. It became clear that many, Gideon included, were gripped by their own insecurities, their barbs born from a fear of being vulnerable. One day, while preparing to enact his plan, Elias encountered Amara, the gentle healer from the village. Her garden, a riot of colors and fragrances, felt like an oasis amidst the chaos. With her raven hair cascading over her shoulders and warm brown eyes sparkling with empathy, she was the embodiment of kindness. "Amara," Elias began, hesitant and thoughtful. "People are struggling to see the value in each other, terrified of what they do not understand." "I agree," she replied softly. "But kindness has a way of shining through the darkest moments." Her words struck a chord deep within him. Inspired, Elias felt a renewed determination to bring a sense of understanding to those lost in their own turmoil. Maybe the path to change lay not just in confronting the bullies but in exemplifying the strength of compassion. As the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the world in hues of gold and amber, Elias made his way back towards the village square, a sense of purpose now firmly anchored in his heart. The laughter he once dreaded began to seem less like a curse and more like an opportunity. A chance to transform mockery into wisdom, to guide the lost souls trapped in the cycle of scorn toward humility and grace. Strong in his conviction, he whispered to himself, "Each laugh carries the potential for a lesson." And for the first time in a long while, uncertainty began to fade, revealing a glimmer of hope for a brighter tomorrow. The stage was set. The time for revealing the truths that lay hidden beneath the laughter was growing nearer. A change of disguise. The moon hung low in the starlit sky, casting a silver sheen across the meadows and whispering secrets to the world below. Elias stood before the worn mirror in the solitude of his quarters, scrutinizing his reflection. The tortured prince who once embraced his royal garb now carefully adjusted a ragged cloak that hung loosely on his shoulders. He pulled on a tunic made of coarse fabric, frayed at the edges, and tied a leather belt around his waist. This was the garb of a traveler, not a prince. He took a deep breath, allowing the unknown to wash over him like a wave, and summoned the courage that arose each time he felt the weight of isolation. This hidden persona would serve as both armor and a shield against the very judgments that often pierced his heart. He was not just Elias, the crippled prince, but now Elias, the humble wanderer. As he stepped outside into the cool night, the world seemed new. The gentle hum of crickets played a soft symphony, and the flickering fireflies danced around him like tiny lanterns igniting the path ahead. With each step, he felt the healed scars of his soul unravel and dissipate into the air, a reminder that the past was merely a shadow. He would no longer remain tucked away in the confines of his titles. He yearned to connect with the folk of the kingdom he called home. The village square greeted him with its familiar energy even beneath the cover of night. Laughter drifted through breezes as different from the taunts he loathed, the laughter of friends gathered to share tales under the glow of a warm hearth. Unsure but resolute, Elias made his way through the crowd, heart pounding audibly in his chest. The villagers moved with ease, many of them unwittingly ignoring the presence of the young man in shabby clothes. Still, he sensed their probing glances. His night's quest was to discover how the villagers spoke of him when they thought he was not listening. Stooping behind a stall that sold fragrant herbs and baked goods, he overheard snippets of conversation among the villagers. Elders exchanged knowing smiles, while younger ones teased each other playfully, all unaware of whom they were discussing. "Did you hear about the prince?" One girl laughed, her voice lilting with mischief. "He spends all day in the enchanted forest, pretending to be a hero." "Such a shame," another chimed in. "He used to be handsome before. You know." Elias winced at their words, each one like a dart aimed straight at his heart. Yet within the hurt lay an ember of resolve. He would find a way to shift their perspective, to teach them that strength was not defined by titles or appearance. Just then, a small commotion drew his attention near the tavern. He squeezed through the crowd and witnessed Gideon, his familiar figure radiating confidence, reveling in the laughter of his peers. There they stood, brimming with misplaced bravado, mocking an elderly man whose clothes hung loosely over his fragile frame. The same man who had been the subject of ridicule at the edge of the square. "Ha! Look at his bones. He'll blow away with the next gust of wind." Gideon guffawed, throwing his head back in mirth, as his friends joined in the chorus of laughter. Elias's heart ached for the man, the prisoner of age and misfortune, and he felt a rush of indignation rise with every taunt. Gideon's cruel words ignited a fierce resolve within him. He would not be forgotten or dismissed. It was time to confront the mocking jester. With determination knitting his brows together, he approached the group, projecting an air of feigned nonchalance despite the urgency trembling in his core. "Why laugh at a man like that?" Elias asked, his voice steady. "Do you not see the strength it takes to live each day he's gifted?" Gideon's laughter faltered, replaced momentarily with surprise at the boldness of this stranger. "Who are you to speak to me?" he retorted, eyeing Elias with irritation. The villagers turned to look, intrigued by this new figure, the traveler who dared challenge their unwitting leader. "I am merely a passerby," Elias replied, straightening his back. "But I have seen enough to recognize the value of courage in those overlooked by your laughter. Is it not easier to mock than to understand?" Murmurs spread through the crowd, some nodding in agreement, others squinting in curiosity. Gideon scoffed, but a flicker of doubt passed through his eyes. "And what do you know about strength, traveler?" he shot back, attempting to regain control of the scene. "Perhaps more than you realize," Elias baited, a flicker of slyness dancing behind his eyes. A hush fell over the crowd, eagerly awaiting the next volley. "Let's make a wager," Elias proposed, a challenge rising in his cadence. "I'll show you the true meaning of strength. Gather a band of your bravest, and I will show you what unyielding courage looks like." Surprise erupted like fireworks among the villagers, curious glances shared between them. Gideon hesitated, assessing the sheer determination of the stranger in humble rags. "All right, traveler. I'll take that bait." As he walked away, Elias felt lighter, a sense of exhilaration coursing through him. The seeds of transformation had been planted, and he would nurture them with each interaction. The disguise he wore was only a facade, but beneath it lay the heart of a prince determined to expose a truth long hidden, one that would elevate not only himself but also the kingdom he loved. If you're enjoying the story so far, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us continue bringing more content your way. Thank you so much for your support, and let's get back to the story. The Hands of Healing. The sun broke over the horizon, casting its golden rays upon the village, illuminating the intertwining paths that led to various corners of the kingdom. Elias, still cloaked in his humble disguise, wandered the streets with a buoyant heart, his mind buzzing with anticipation of what was to come. The challenge to Gideon had stirred something within. Not just the prospect of exposing the bullies, but also a growing sense of purpose, a renewed conviction that he could make a difference. As he roamed the village, Elias's steps guided him to a familiar, enchanting sight, the Garden of Amara, the gentle healer. Its beauty was unparalleled, a tapestry of wildflowers and herbs that waved gracefully in the morning breeze. Brightly colored blooms painted the pathways, inviting visitors into a sanctuary that seemed almost enchanted. Amara was in the middle of her daily chores, her hands delicately tending to each plant as if nurturing a child. The moment Elias approached, she lifted her gaze, her warm brown eyes dancing with recognition. "Good morning, traveler," she greeted, her voice melodic and comforting. "What brings you to my garden today?" "I've come to see you, and to seek a remedy," Elias replied, a playful glint sparkling in his eyes. "I need a cure for foolishness." Amara chuckled, a sound like tinkling bells, as she brushed a few stray strands of hair behind her ear. "Then you've come to the right place. The garden holds all the remedies for both body and spirit." Elias admired her, enchanted by her ability to weave magic from nature, grounding the hopes and dreams of many who sought her out. In this moment, he found himself yearning for her undeterred kindness, reflecting his own desires for gentleness and compassion amidst the harsh realities he faced. "Amara, I wanted you to be the first to know. Tomorrow, I'll meet with Gideon and the others for a challenge," he shared, a flicker of uncertainty peeking through his otherwise determined demeanor. "I hope to show them the strength that lives in the overlooked." Amara's expression shifted from lightheartedness to contemplative concern. "What kind of challenge do you plan?" she asked, her brow furrowed without malice, sensing the weight of his ambitions. Elias took a deep breath. "They laugh at the weaknesses of others, finding joy in ridicule. I want to confront their shallow perceptions and teach them to appreciate the value of kindness, but I fear their mockery may get the better of me." Silence hung between them for a moment, palpable. Amara stepped closer, her hands resting on his shoulders. "You carry the heart of a lion, Elias. The way you've undertaken this quest shows courage much more robust than the bravado they display. When strength is layered with compassion, you can lead the way for others to follow." Her words warmed him, igniting a spark he had desperately needed. With newfound clarity, Elias suggested, "Perhaps you could join me. Your wisdom and kindness could shine a light during these trials." Amara's expression brightened. "I would be honored to help you, but you must promise me one thing. Do not forget the importance of empathy, even toward those who seem lost." As they sat together in the garden, Elias spent the morning learning about the herbs and flowers that flourished around them. She shared not only the practicalities of healing, but also the philosophy of understanding and nurturing, revealing that true kindness comes from connecting deeply with one another. Their laughter and words mingled with the sounds of the garden, creating an oasis of peace where fears began to fade. Elias listened intently, absorbing her lessons like a sponge, understanding that in the face of adversity, understanding the hearts of others would be his most potent weapon. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting hues of lavender and pink, Amara gathered a bouquet of wildflowers, arranging them with care. "Take these with you," she said, presenting them to Elias. "Let them serve as a reminder of your strength, vulnerability, and the paths toward healing." Elias took the bouquet, its fragrance enveloping him in warmth. "Thank you, Amara. Your belief in me kindles a flicker of hope in a heart that often feels heavy." They spent the rest of the afternoon crafting a plan, mapping out ways Elias could use the challenges to expose not just the weaknesses of the bullies, but also the hidden courage within them all. Clarity washed over Elias, layering each moment with purpose. He was determined to embrace the essence of empathy and sow seeds of understanding, nurturing even the hardest hearts. As twilight melted into night and stars twinkled in the blanket of darkness above, Elias walked away from the garden, fortified with Amara's wisdom. He had never felt more alive, awakened by the realization that healing was not just about mending one's wounds, it was about guiding others toward deeper understanding. With every step, he could already visualize tomorrow's challenge and the potential to transform lives. Not just the bullies, but his own as well. A calm breeze swirled around him, a gentle reminder that he was part of something greater. A tapestry of lives woven together in the pursuit of kindness and growth. The path stretched before him, and he braced himself for the journey that lay ahead. Trials in the meadow. The sun rose brightly above the horizon, casting a warm glow over the meadow of trials. A vast expanse of golden grass dotted with wildflowers, swaying gently in the morning breeze. Elias stood at the edge of the meadow, a place that promised both challenge and transformation. Today was the day, and with every flicker of anxiety, excitement surged through him, thrumming in his veins. Gathered in the meadow were Gideon and his group of friends, their faces a mix of disbelief and mockery upon seeing Elias. The sight of him, clad in the traveler's garb and holding a bouquet of wildflowers, stirred an uneasy reaction among them. Though they had expected to witness a spectacle, they were visibly confused by his quiet determination. "Look who decided to show up." The wanderer in rags, Gideon announced, crossing his arms with an arrogant grin, his handsome face illuminated by the sun's rays. "What kind of games are you planning to play?" Elias took a deep breath and stepped forward into the light, his heart racing. "I've come not to play games, but to challenge you to trials. Trials that will reveal more about us than pomp or pride." Laughter erupted from Gideon's group, but Elias pressed on. "These challenges will not just test your strength but will uncover the values that define true courage and camaraderie." He could see curiosity replace mockery as they shifted, staring at him with intrigue. The air was thick with anticipation as Elias leaned into the moment, speaking with intention. "The first trial will be a race through this meadow, but there's a twist. You must not run directly for the finish line. Instead, you will collect one flower from any plant you encounter on the way." The crowd murmured, and Gideon raised an eyebrow, clearly perplexed. "What kind of foolish challenge is this? Are we supposed to frolic as if we're in the nursery?" "Foolishness is often wrapped in wisdom," Elias replied, a flicker of resolve dancing in his eyes. "True strength doesn't always lie in speed. Sometimes, it is in recognizing the beauty around us. The challenge begins now." With a nod from Gideon and a reluctant cheer from his friends, the race commenced, an unexpected mixture of excitement and tension coursing through the air. As the participants dashed across the meadow, the vibrant wildflowers danced around them, brushing against their legs. Gideon led the way, sprinting fast with narrow focus. The others followed suit, laughter mixing with breaths of determination. Elias lagged slightly behind, drawing the race in slow motion, savoring each step. He spotted delicate daisies, bluebells swaying gracefully, and dandelions whispering wishes in the wind, a reminder of the beauty he sought to reveal. The moment Gideon reached a wildflower patch, he grabbed a large poppy with an exaggerated flourish, throwing it into the air like a trophy of victory. "Look what I found," he bellowed, his voice echoing across the meadow. But as he reached for another flower nearby, he stumbled over unseen roots, tumbling to the ground, his laughter morphing into a bewildered grunt. The others erupted into more laughter, but Elias seized this moment to call out, "Gideon, why rush? Strength lies in balance and respect for the earth." Gideon shot him a glare, his pride wounded even further, yet he pushed himself back up and resumed the race, raking his fingers through his hair in frustration. As the boys began collecting flowers with increasing restlessness, Elias knelt beside a cluster of wild violets, their gentle perfume enveloping him like a soft embrace. He gently plucked one, contemplating its delicate petals, reminding himself that beauty often grows in the harshest conditions. Soon they reconvened at the designated finish line with their collected flowers. The meadow was alive with a spectrum of colors in their hands, from the vibrant yellows of buttercups to the deep crimson of poppies. Yet some, like Gideon, were eager to flaunt their spoils while others looked more contemplative about the experience. The second trial had been designed for introspection. Elias challenged them to take turns sharing a truth about themselves as they each held a flower in their hand. "Let's discover the strength behind our blooms," he suggested. Gideon scowled but reluctantly agreed, seeing the spark of interest in his friend's eyes. They formed a circle, the rustic fabric of the meadow cradling their words. "I chose a poppy because it represents remembrance," Gideon began, his bravado softening slightly. I often forget the faces behind my words. Each confession peeled back layers of bravado. Jasper, the kind-hearted one, spoke about loneliness. Another admitted feeling overshadowed by Gideon's confidence. As their words floated through the air, friendships began to deepen, the sun's warm light acting as a gentle balm on their insecurities. When it came time for Elias to speak, he held the violet close to his heart. I've always longed for understanding, for a world where laughter uplifts rather than weighs us down. I wear this disguise to seek connection, through the eyes of someone overlooked. In our shared humanity, we can find strength in compassion. Each flower has its beauty, but it grows from its struggles. An inescapable silence lingered before the group collectively inhaled, feeling the heaviness retreat as they embraced newfound understanding. Laughter faded into introspection, and together they asked themselves, how can we cultivate the strength to show kindness? Can we change the narrative? As the sun began to sink, casting a golden hue across the meadow, Gideon looked at Elias, his once contemptuous demeanor giving way to vulnerability. Maybe you're right. I've let my pride turn me blind. The trials had transformed into lessons, resulting in shared bonds among the unlikely friends who had once been adversaries. They emerged from the meadow not as rivals but as brothers, united by their shared truths and the resilient beauty of their flowers. The first step was taken, the seeds of change planted in their hearts, promising to bloom into something even more beautiful than they could have anticipated. The bloom of understanding. Soft rays of dawn filtered through the trees, casting intricate patterns on the meadow as Elias and the other young men prepared for the next trial. The camaraderie forged during yesterday's challenges had left them in an unexpected state of reflection, where laughter and honesty coalesced into something deeper. There was no going back after shedding their previous pretense. They had crossed a threshold toward newfound understanding. Gathering at the heart of the meadow, Elias stood before the group, feeling the swell of anticipation. Today's trial is about empathy, he announced with conviction. We will not only reflect on our own feelings but also step into the shoes of others. Gideon, freshly humbled from their previous encounter, looked attentive rather than dismissive. How do we do that? He asked curiously, lowering his guard a little. Jasper stood at his side, enthusiasm sparkling in his eyes, eager for the revelation that lay ahead. Each of you will draw a card from this deck I've prepared, Elias said, offering a handmade stack adorned with various adjectives and emotions. Joy, fear, loneliness, pride, anxiety, and hope. Once you draw a card, you will share a moment from your lives that resonates with that word. But there's a twist. After sharing, you'll need to reflect on how that moment affects someone else. How does your feeling ripple out beyond you? As they peered at the deck, silent breaths fell across the group, swirling with trepidation and excitement alike. I'll go first, Elias said, drawing a card that read fear. The young men leaned in as he began his story. When I was younger, I feared the idea of being seen, being judged by those around me. I became consumed by the notion that my limp defined my worth. I carried that fear until I realized I was more than my appearance. I was a heart capable of love and compassion. He paused, looking directly at Gideon. This fear not only shaped me, I see it reflected in others as well. When you mock someone, you might be feeding their fears. We're all fighting our own battles, aren't we? Gideon shifted uncomfortably, but as the stories unfolded around him, he began to absorb the lessons. Each young man shared his truth, eliciting reflections that bridged the gap between their diverse experiences. When it was Gideon's turn, he drew the card marked pride. He took a deep breath, vulnerability sprouting within him. I've always patted myself on the back for being strong, the best of my friends. What I never realized was how my pride often blindfolded me to the struggles of others. I would laugh when they faltered and thought I was above it all. He glanced around the circle, his voice wavering slightly. But I see now that my pride made me feel isolated. Hurting others pushed them away, leaving me with emptiness. I need to learn to be humble, to grow beyond myself. Each confession blossomed with sincerity, as if the meadow itself acted as a balm for their wounds. They exchanged their vulnerabilities, knitting together a tapestry of experiences that intertwined their lives in unexpected yet profound ways. Finally, it was Jasper's turn. He drew loneliness. He described the loneliness he felt as the quirky friend, always wanting to be included yet perpetually standing on the sidelines. I've been the clown, always joking around. But sometimes, I'd stand off to the side and just wish someone would see me, see past the laughter. I don't think I realized how my attempts to make others laugh pushed me further into solitude. As the discussion flowed, the weight of understanding began to bloom among them, hearts opening to the intricate connections that tied their emotions to one another. The trials were transforming them, rooted deeper than just triumph over the superficial. This was a journey toward empathy, revealing their shared humanity. Minutes turned into an hour, and the young men embraced their emotional explorations without reservation. Each story revealed glimpses of fear, dreams unfulfilled, and moments of sadness. Together, they learned not only about themselves but also about the ties binding them. "Can you see how everything is connected?" Elias asked, drawing their attention back together. "We are all branches of the same tree. Our feelings and actions have the potential to strengthen and uplift one another." The conversations ebbed and flowed, the natural background of chirping birds and rustling plants serving as a reminder of the life surrounding them. With every shared truth, the young men forged a bond deeper than any they had known before. After a while, as the sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting a golden hue over the meadow, Gideon rose, gesturing for everyone's attention. "I'd like to apologize. All this time I've only seen strength tied to dominance and mockery. But I realize now that there's a strength in vulnerability. Whenever I laughed at someone, I was only showing my own weaknesses." His heartfelt admission silenced the group, but soon, they met his sincerity with nods and supportive smiles. As the warmth of acceptance embraced him, Gideon beamed, a young man enlivened with hope. Elias felt a surge of triumph for the group and a swell of pride within himself. The bloom of understanding had indeed manifested beautifully. The seeds of compassion were sprouting as they all walked further into their journey together. The lesson learned today felt palpable, a fragile yet potent bud taking root in each of their souls. With renewed heart and spirit, they eventually gathered their flowers and formed a circle of friendship in the midst of the meadow, rejoicing in the profound understanding they had cultivated together. The journey was far from over, but the path ahead was now illuminated with the expectation of discovery and true connection. The true prince revealed. The sun hung in the sky, bathing the meadow in a soft golden hue as the young men gathered for the last trial. What began as a venture into the unknown had transformed into a journey of understanding and friendship, binding their hearts in ways they had never anticipated. Elias felt an invigorating energy surging within him, a buoyancy that propelled him forward as he prepared to reveal the final layer of truth. Today would not be a challenge of strength or endurance, it would be a moment of vulnerability, his moment. With his heart racing, Elias glanced around at the familiar faces of Gideon, Jasper, and the others who had once been indifferent to his plight. They were now united in curiosity, their laughter and camaraderie infused with warmth, acceptance, and even love. "Yesterday, we went deep into ourselves, sharing our truths," Elias began, his voice steady but soft. "Today, I want us to explore who we are outside of these walls we've built around ourselves. I want to share with you the truth of who I really am, the truth that can change everything." The group fell silent, their expressions shifting from eagerness to intrigue. As Elias felt the weight of their gazes upon him, he took a deep breath, summoning the courage he had cultivated in their time together. "I am not only a traveler or a boy in rags. I am Elias, the prince of this kingdom." A wave of disbelief rippled through the group, and for a heartbeat, the world felt suspended in time. Gideon blinked, unable to fathom the bold revelation. "You, a prince?" he echoed incredulously, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, I am," Elias affirmed, his voice unwavering as he revealed the truth buried under layers of shame, loneliness, and fear. "And I've hidden my identity for so long because I wanted to experience the world without the expectations or judgments that come with being royalty. I wanted to connect with you, to know what it means to truly live." An array of emotions swept across the faces in front of him. Wonder, confusion, and a tinge of regret intertwined as they processed the weight of his words. For a moment, the meadow seemed to hold its breath. "Why didn't you tell us?" Jasper finally asked, his youthful innocence shining through. "We could have shared in your world. I feared that if you knew my identity, you would see me differently, through the lens of titles and privilege," Elias explained, his heart swelling with honesty. "Instead, I wanted to learn from my vulnerability. I wanted you to see that kindness and strength aren't tied to a title. They emerge from understanding and empathy." Gideon, clenching his fists, finally broke the silence. "I mocked you for being a crippled prince, yet you were brave enough to stand beside us as a humble traveler. I can't believe I laughed at you. You were trying to show me what true strength was all along." The weight of these words reverberated through the group, and the truth settled into a collective realization. Elias had not just guided them toward understanding, he had led them to confront their own flaws and insecurities. As the silence broke, Mira stepped forward, her voice tender yet firm. "Elias showed us that strength is born from vulnerability, a lesson more profound than any greater title or wealth could teach." With her words, the tension began to diffuse, trust blooming anew among them. Slowly, their thoughts turned to the deeper implications of the prince in their midst. "Can we still be friends?" Jasper asked, his gaze earnest and innocent. "Or does being a prince mean you have to go back to the castle? Do we lose you now?" "No," Elias responded, shaking his head fervently. "I'm still the same person you've come to know. I choose not to go back to my old life right away. You all have shown me the kingdom beyond its walls, the beauty in kindness, laughter, and compassion. I want to help bridge the gap between my world and yours. We can make a real difference together." Gideon stepped forward, a newfound determination shining in his eyes. "Then let's work together. I may have started off as a bully, but I have learned so much from you. This kingdom deserves to see the compassion we've discovered." Elias's spirit lifted at Gideon's declaration, a pledge to change. The realization that even the toughest hearts could soften fueled his hope. "Together, we can make the kingdom a better place. Let's hold festivals of kindness, teach empathy, and help those in need. We can be the change we wish to see." As they stood together in the meadow, like branches reaching for the sky, they began to envision plans for their newfound mission. Together, they would dismantle the walls that divided them. Little did they realize how they would inspire others as the ripples of their actions spread far and wide. As the sun began to set, spilling shades of orange, pink, and purple across the sky, Elias felt an overwhelming sense of peace wash over him. There, surrounded by friends who had once been strangers, he recognized the strength found not in wealth or titles, but in the bonds of love, understanding, and shared purpose. In the heart of the meadow, a new beginning unfolded, and the prince welcomed the start of a life not defined by privilege but by the legacy of kindness they intended to cultivate together. From that day forward, the true prince within him was not merely a title, but a spirit ready to blossom against the backdrop of a brighter future for all. Did you enjoy this video? If so, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to join us for more amazing stories every day. Here at Daily Anything History, there's always something new to discover. See you in the next video.